And welcome to the Not So Late Show. Tonight, our guest will be
Ben Lee.
Hey, stop mindlessly scrolling your life away and stay tuned with us at the Not So Late Show on Instagram Live with your host, Brendan Love. And welcome to another Not So Late Show. I'm your host, Brendan Love. Guest host Clarice in our matching flannel today. It's going to be an ongoing theme. Me and Clarice are going to try and coordinate each week. Welcome everybody. In case you're wondering, the reason we're doing the Not So Late Show at 2 p.m. Australian time is because we're going to have our first ever internet. Well, he's actually Australian, but he lives internationally in North America. So rather than make him wait up till 3 a.m., I thought we could compromise and do this at 2 p.m. So it'll be Ben Lee's 9 p.m. last night for Australians. But try not to think about it too much. Some quick news at the top of the show, Teskey related stuff. The live album, which many people have been asking about, is coming, I promise. There'll be some announcements hopefully this week. Obviously with Record Store Day being postponed, there's been a bit of uncertainty and some things have had to change and move, so we're just figuring all of that out, but it is coming, so keep your eye on our page. And also, we've got a very special streaming event that's happening on May the 13th, which at this point may end up just being Josh in his bungalow singing songs, but, no complaints there. If we can sort of get within, a close enough proximity to each other, we'll do a band one, but in worst case scenario, I think it'll probably just be Josh doing a streaming performance on May 13th. So anyway, it is Red Bin night tonight. So it's Red Bin Day tomorrow in Warrandyte North. Please let us know what bin day it is, in your country and municipality. We're always keen to know at the Not So Late Show. I got to remember to ask Ben. Anyway, as you know, I like to tell a story about my guests. It was working. 2 seconds ago it was working. It never works.
Let me tell you a story.
All right. Well, it's kind of cliche to say, but our guest really does need no introduction, but a brief Wikipedia introduction may suffice. So, Ben Lee is an Australian musician and actor. He began his career at the age of 14. 14! That's not just he started playing music. That's like started putting music out and playing gigs at the age of 14, which is unbelievable. His first band was based in Sydney called Noise Addict. He then went on to pursue a solo career in music. He's released 11 studio albums, which just blows my mind. 11 studio albums. And he's just a creative powerhouse. He's just done so many things. He does production, worked in commercials, movies, scores, all of that kind of thing. So I'm really excited to get him on and pick his brain. So without further ado, if I can load this thing, we'll connect with Ben Lee shortly. Ben!
Hey.
Hey, mate, how are you?
What a professional enterprise you're running with the opening credits and the backdrop. It's amazing.
Oh, man, we spare no expense here at the Not So Late Show.
Clearly. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. And, matching outfits.
We look like a band.
Yeah. Yeah. How are things in the
I forgot we were doing this, and I ate an edible before, but we should all be all good. Just
I think that'll just make it better. So, how are things going in the Lee household? How's things on that side of the world?
Yeah, it's been, the US is, there's a lot of, it's not the epicenter of the virus, but it is a country that's been hugely affected and was wildly unprepared. So it's pretty wild being here. We've been in quarantine for a month, maybe a little bit more than that. So, it's a trip, doing a lot of figuring it out each day.
I mean, I know you're someone who's constantly doing something. You always seem to be working on a new project or collaborating or, I don't know, finding different ways of expression and being creative. Has this time at home for you kind of been a blessing in disguise, or is it, how are you finding the, I guess,
Yeah, it's been well, interesting because I think I do have those muscles kind of trained of being creative. So naturally, that's kind of been my response. I don't think that's everybody's response. I don't think it has to be your response. You know, there's no right or wrong way to get through a period like this. But for me, it has been just becoming more, just, you know, able to say yes to more things like this and sharing and trying to share my music and play new songs. I'm still, you know, I was getting ready to make a record before this happened. So then I had a period of like, maybe those songs aren't going to be relevant anymore. Maybe I'll just throw them all away. And that lasted about 2 weeks. And then they sort of crept back and I was like, actually, you know, they're feeling pretty good. So it's just yeah, it's weird, man. It's just really weird. I don't know. I think someone who does like to stay busy. So even if it's like helping my daughter with her school or cooking some steaks or, you know, whatever's happening, like I like to be doing things. It kind of keeps me sane. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been enjoying your very the high production value TV show as well, the talent
We
show
haven't
with
done it
Goldie.
now for a bit. It's like, I feel like in quarantine, it's like life is accelerated. Like you get in these grooves for like a week or 2 weeks, then you're like, it's like you blew through like 7 years of karma. I don't know. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, this is the first time I haven't really had anything set in stone as far as the schedule for quite a while. Like as far as touring and writing, it's just, yeah, I'm sort of at home, not really doing much, but this show is about the only thing that anchors my week. I can sort of go, oh, it's Sunday, I'm doing the show. But like, it feels like yesterday I was doing this with Paul Dempsey. It's just flying.
And you know what's
past.
funny too? I reckon that like part of what we're seeing is that people who are performers, like in their blood, sort of, it's like, oh, well, these are the constraints. Let's perform this way. Like you can't stop if you're someone that likes sharing with an audience and playing music. And so it's just kind of changed form. But like, yeah, I think everyone sort of, you just shift gears, but you still want to like connect with people and with an audience.
Yeah. I wanted to actually ask you about that because you did the Isolate Festival last weekend on Saturday. How did you find, I guess, that experience of playing to
I loved it.
A large audience?
Yeah, I loved it. I found, well, you know, it's interesting because I think my music is taking on a little bit of some cultural relevance in Australia, particularly. I'm getting a lot from around the world, but I can feel it in Australia, like the connection between my music and the country. And so it was powerful to just share with whatever it was, 800-900 people. You know, it had the energy of being in a room. It's weird. You did it, right?
No, I haven't done it. We haven't done it as a band.
It's really fun. I was really impressed because when they first told me about it, I thought it sounded kind of dodgy. Like, I thought it would be kind of like this, where you'd call into someone that had a built-in audience. But they were like, no, everyone goes. And I was like, oh, who's going to go to it? I just couldn't see it working. But then I clicked live, and next thing there's like 600 people. Like, so they really do seem to go from artist to artist, and they stagger it. So it's like people with very little exposure next to people who've had a lot, and it seems like people are discovering new music through it. I mean, I think it's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that was what surprised me was the sense of community. You know, obviously being so distant from everyone, but this thing connecting everyone. And for me, especially like the Melbourne music scene or the Australian music scene is such a small thing. So you'd log in and watch a show, and it's, you know, you can see all of your friends commenting and everyone enjoying it. And and the audiences, as you say, would carry across, which was really nice.
Yeah, it's like a real festival.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, come on, everyone go, you know, we're going to go to the tent stage down at the back now and, you know, stop and get a dodgy kebab on the way kind of thing. So,
Totally.
Yeah. I read a quote the other day. I mean, you probably know this one, but like, because I've had that feeling of it's, you know, it's like, what am I doing? I don't know. Like, I don't have a schedule. I'm kind of a bit out of sorts, a bit out of balance. Then I read the Lao Tzu quote, doing nothing is better than being busy doing nothing. And I was just like, yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, I think part of for me, for sure, part of this period is, as much as I said I'm focused on staying busy in the activity, that enforced pause. For everyone I know, it's creating a lot of opportunity to reevaluate and reprioritize. And it's like, it's sort of important, the doing nothing aspect, because we're getting a chance. I think we're getting a chance as a species to say, how about the way we're going? What do you guys think? Like, it's almost like we're just doing like what do they call in America, calling an audible, I guess, where you sort of like take a moment to have a little strategy conversation. And I think as a species, we kind of need to do that. And it's important to have space for it.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's certainly interesting, and particularly, like seeing the way that I guess that music and performers are kind of working within the. It's funny how limitation kind of often breeds more creativity.
Absolutely.
So it's cool to see the how people are responding and reacting and trying to connect and keep, I guess, engaged and giving, which is, it's really cool. And I mean, this show I've been doing for a while, and it's just a silly little thing, but I don't know. It's just been fun to try and for us to do something that's not music related as well, or not related about us necessarily. You know what I mean? It's
Well, I think part of most people who are fans of music that get into bands, I think one of the great joys we have is sharing things we like too with other people. So a lot of musicians are natural hosts in a certain way, because they say, oh my God, I want you to hear this record. I want you to know what this artist means to me. I want to tell you about this book I read. Like, there's a natural sharing that music fans, we just have it's built into us, you know?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that natural sharing and music and stuff like that, I had a fan question for you, which I thought would tie in nicely to your latest album, Quarter Century Classics.
Yeah.
The question came from Anthony Hurl and was basically, who was your biggest musical influence growing up? And I guess that ties in nicely to the latest album, because it's a collection of music
the last album I made was all covers of music I was really into. But I would say influenced my entire value system about music, I would say it's Jonathan Richman, who was the singer for a band called the Modern Lovers, who were one of the first amazing punk bands. Like Jerry Harrison was in Modern Lovers before he was in the Talking Heads. They were just seminal punk band. The Sex Pistols covered them. And then he discovered acoustic music and started making music for kids, basically. And he was totally punk, but also it's hard to describe his music, but it's almost like the energy, the attitude of it. It's almost like that's the foundation I've built my entire belief system about songwriting on, you know?
Yeah. There's probably a lot of people that have jumped on board your career, I guess, later on, that may be shocked to find out that you kind of come from this punk rock beginning.
Yeah, well, there's this R&B sort of indie artist who I love, who I collaborated with, called Shamir in New York. And he bought Numero Uno, which is sort of this record collector label. They put out a Noise Addict collection. It's historically something, archive material they do. And they put it out, and he bought it because he's into he had this whole aesthetic thing about baby punks. And he was this is Ben Lee, because he knew me from later. But I think one of the things about having a long career, which you guys are going to have, and you've already had, it's already substantial. But I think one of the things is you notice that people get on board at different points. And if you continue to make music from your heart, it will connect with the hearts of the audience at different times when they need it, And so I literally have probably 5 periods of my career, or 6, that some people say is the only good moment in my career. They only like that, and they don't like anything else. Yeah. But they're all different, So it's pretty cool. It makes you realize that like you just keep going, and it's not like you have to have loyalty to the king. It's not like the mafia, where like if you're a fan of mine, you have to be a fan forever till you die. It's like hopefully your music will be there for people at the right time. And it's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing to accompany times of their life. You know what I mean? You don't have to be there all the time.
yeah. That's I mean, and that's a really that's a I don't know what the word is. That's a wise and beautiful way of, I guess, accepting that as well. Because I mean, I know there'd be a lot of artists out there that do have that, like, if you didn't jump on board at album number 2, I don't want you listening to album number 7. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I've been discovering myself the whole time too. So
yeah,
I don't know why I would want anyone there from the beginning. I don't think I mean it's nice if you were, but I feel like I heard Miles Davis said something like he started at this point and it took him 20 years to find his voice. And I feel like if you're a real artist, it's very rare you fully arrive in your voice.
yeah,
Even Bob Dylan didn't arrive in his voice. David Bowie didn't arrive in his voice. Like, and they got there sort of pretty quickly. Um, but the Beatles wrote 99 songs before I Want to Hold Your Hand. You know, there's a journey to take,
yeah,
and I think it's beautiful to symbolize different things to different people.
yeah. How do you feel about? Because yeah, when you mention people like Bob Dylan and you know, like any of the greats, and you look at their career in terms of sort of point A to point Z or whatever, you know, point S on the way to Z or whatever. On the spectrum of a career, like over that time frame, it's such a long thing, and the up and down movement of
Yeah.
uh, not acclaim, but I guess you know, like people's favorite albums. It kind of the
Look, when
graph
sometimes
is
the phone's ringing, sometimes it's not. You know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But over the scope of a whole career, and with the retrospect that we look back, we kind of go, yeah, they have a place in history, as well as, you know, like there's a significance to the body of work that they've created, and we don't look at it with that microscope of how many Spotify's playlist streams did they get. Like, I guess these days it feels much more like the propensity for people to go, oh well, that didn't work, move on.
Yeah, but I think that type of broad examination of a body of work has to be earned. And I think that
Yeah,
I always say the surest way to prove yourself is to prove yourself. Like there's no
yeah,
other way to do it. You have to still be standing 20 years later. You have to still be standing 10 years later. You have to do it. It's like there's no way you can telegraph to an audience to be taken seriously with any credibility at the beginning of your career. It seems like posturing. It has to be earned. And I think my favorite artists could tolerate um, being underestimated for long periods.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They weren't in a rush scampering to get back to number one or to get on the front cover of magazines. It's not. It's not. I just don't think that is the dignified way to pursue a career. And what you find at the end, that I like artists who make their best record in their 70s. You know, I look at artists like I love Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen, and you know, I love the stuff Bob Dylan's been doing. The last 2 singles he's put out, I've just been like, oh my god! Like, I look to it as to have a career that you just get better and better, and you peak before you die. You know, or maybe your last gasp, that's your masterpiece.
yeah,
But I never looked at it as like something that you have to like the Brian Wilson model of like at 23 years old, you have to do your masterwork and then fizzle into madness. Like to me, that's not the type of career I've ever wanted, you know?
yeah. Is that have you had that, I guess, perspective from early on, or is this kind of developed as you've experienced, you know, the music industry and all the many facets of, you know, fame and having the hit and all of that kind of thing? Did you start off with, I guess, that kind of overview, or is that kind of developed as your career's evolved?
I would say I go through phases, and I've gone through phases. Like I have times when I'm chasing I feel more ambitious. I try and do it these days from sort of a healthy place, like not like there's times when you're like, say, if you've been training for a marathon, you've trained and your stamina's up and you're healthy and you want to see how good a time you can get. You know what I mean? There's moments where you're ready to have a title shot, and that can happen at different moments in your career. But ultimately, I think as you go on, it shouldn't be done with any type of desperation or rage or arrogance. It should just be like, look, it's not for me to say where I stand in the pantheon of great songwriters,
Yeah.
but I'd like to try my best to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that type of ambition, it's sort of healthy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something that I've always looked to you, well, your career and you personally is that ambition to keep exploring. And yeah, like, as I say, like you always seem to be working on something and always exploring new avenues. Like before leading up to this interview, I was going for walks and I just listened to your whole discography from Noise Addict till now.
Well, yeah.
And it's like every album has a very clear direction and is defined and different from the last. And I don't know, for me, there's something about that I find so satisfying. I do it with like Radiohead and all of my favorite bands, just listening to the whole thing and listening to it evolve. And I guess for me, they're always the artists that I guess really respect and admire.
Yeah, I think it's a little harder to do as a band. I think there are bands like Radiohead that do it, but it's more like when you, because I have a little duo I'm into and I can see the homogenizing form in a group, you know, but essentially as one person, like you look at the artists we think of as changing a lot, there were people like Bowie, you know, because they could bring in different collaborators every time too. So that's part of it also. But, you know, there's also something to be said for the, because I've struggled with that. I feel I have this like, it's almost like I want to set a fire to whatever I've just walked away from. So I sort of destroy the past and step into a new exploration. But within that, I'm still me. You know, I still show up and it sounds like me singing. And my songs are kind of about pretty similar stuff. That's what's weird. Like some of the aesthetics might change. There might be different musicians, different producers. I might sing a little differently. But essentially, I'm channeling the same psyche into a song at any given point. And I'm kind of limited with what my options are within that. It's like I'm always going to look the way I look. I'll look different as I get older, but it's me. I mean, my body, you know? So, so yeah, it's like, it's a complicated, paradoxical feeling where you feel this urge to change all the time, but you're also looking for that thread of like, who am I? What is the essence of me? I want to be that guy that like when I pick up a guitar and I sing, it sounds like me. I want to do that even if it's changing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's tricky. That's the journey.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to another fan question that we got sent in from Ben Lee. And he asked, how am I not myself?
Yeah, that's from I Heart Huckabees. Did you ever see that movie?
I did. And it's funny, as soon as I heard that phrase, I can't explain why that phrase has so much seeming weight and also a complete, I can't grasp it. You can just say it over and over again in your head, which is, you know, that's the same in the movie. But even when you sent me that yesterday jokingly, I remembered it. And I was just sitting there on my Sharpie mat, you know, meditating. And I was just thinking about that. And I was like, why is this so, if it was why am I not myself, it would be so much easier to grasp as a concept. But when it's how am I not myself?
Yeah,
it's just,
how am I not myself? So for people that don't know what we're talking about, there's this movie called I Heart Huckabees made by David O. Russell, who he made a series of very interesting, weirder films before. He recently did like a, you know, Silver Linings Playbook and Joy and what was the other one? American
Hustle.
One of the all the Jennifer Lawrence, great big Hollywood intel, but he used to make these kind of weirder movies. And there's this one called I Heart Huckabees that is about philosophy and existential detectives. It's a comedy. But this question, how am I not myself? they pose it a lot in the film. It's almost like a Zen koan. Like it's like a riddle for your mind that makes you suddenly be aware that, like, it's almost like in a dream. Have you ever been having a dream and you suddenly see like a piece of fruit flying through the air and you're like, whoa, things are weird here. That could only happen in the dream, you know?
Yeah.
So that kind of question does that to your mind. How am I not myself? In what ways am I not myself? It makes you think about that.
Yeah.
Not why.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, yeah, you can literally just repeat it endlessly and emphasize a different word in that sentence, and it will take on different meanings. So yeah, I mean, it was funny when you said that, because I was like, yeah, that's funny. But then I just ruminated on it for the rest of the day, and I was just like, yeah, how am I? And I just kept asking myself.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah. I wanted to go back to a 14-year-old Ben Lee.
Can I get a beverage? My mouth is just really dry. Hang on.
Oh yeah, Matt,
Okay, just a moment.
This is very casual. I've got my Not So Late Show mug here, so it's only fair if you retrieve yourself a beverage. Hello, Argentina. Thank you for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining along. If you have questions for Ben, send them in. I mean, now's your chance to get them answered. He's right. Well, he's not there now, but he will be very shortly. So there he is. He's back. Yeah, so what is Clarice staring at? That's just kind of what she does. Yeah.
Oh.
What was I saying? 14-year-old Ben Lee.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I don't know if everyone's has this fantasy as a young boy or girl, but I certainly did, which consisted of me. I was about 6 years old. In the fantasy, I'm busking somewhere on the street. Slash from Guns N' Roses has some sort of incident where he can't perform. Axl Rose walks past, hears me playing, and his mind is blown. He can't believe how good this young boy is. And so he goes, hey, you know what, man? We should get you on stage. And then that night I get on stage and I play with Guns N' Roses, and everyone's mind is blown by this young protege, virtuoso musician. And I feel like a lot of kids have this, whether it's in sport or whatever it is that interests them. I feel like you lived this out, though, as far as a 14-year-old playing music and Sonic Youth comes along and takes interest in what you're doing. I feel like you've lived this fantasy out.
Yeah, well, I think the thing to remember is that there are lottery winners in life. Like, it happens. Good things happen inexplicably, but then life continues, and there's a series. Have you ever heard that phrase, new levels, new devils? There's whatever happens, it's easy to idealize. Like, I remember plenty of times I've thought about like Brad Pitt or something. Like, people just imagine no problems, you know what I mean? And then as life goes on, you realize like, well, it's a unique set of problems, but I think this did happen, it did happen like that. And that is something, the essence of the fact that I ever got a chance. And to give it some context, the odds that were against that happening are that I was not technically a good musician, nor did I technically do good recordings. I happened to intersect with culture at an exact moment where that was precisely what people were looking for. In 1992, it was like Nirvana was blowing up, and there was this sudden awareness that weirdos in their bedrooms had something to offer culture. That was like, it was like Elliott Smith, Cat Power, me a little bit later was Conor Oberst, like Daniel Johnston, all the like outsider, Jad Fair, like Liz Fair, all this outsider music, people were like, man, these weirdos in their bedrooms. And that was also the music Kurt Cobain liked. So he would promote a lot of this like weird underground homemade music, Sebadoh and everything, So had I not been ready to go at the exact moment when culturally it was acceptable to have a low skill set, it would never have happened. Like, I would never, if I was born in like, around Beethoven's time, I would never have been discovered for anything. I could have competed. I happened to have the skill set that was in demand at that moment. So it's very weird, you know? But that's why I feel grateful, because I have to admit that was very lucky. You know, there was a lot of good fortune around that. But to come back to what I was saying before, you cannot cut corners. So even if you get a break, like sometimes you look at people who like win The Voice or something, or American Idol, and you go like, oh, they just get a break. They just like are suddenly on a major label and have big video budgets and all that. They are going to pay their dues if they're going to last. And that is the thing you have to be ready for. So at various points, you've probably had a few lucky breaks too. They can happen at any point. And you go, had I not been there at that moment, it would not have happened. But the break is like, the lucky break is sort of like it's like a catapult into another level, like of a video game. But you then have to, in real time, go to battle on the level you're put at, and you're not prepared for it, and it's harder than had you gradually taken that journey. You know what I mean? So it's what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly felt, I mean, you know, in the modest success that we have had, I've certainly felt that feeling of, yeah, when you kind of get thrust into this next thing, and there's a weight and a responsibility that I feel, because, as you say, a lot of success and failure does have to do with aspects that you don't command, you know, as an enterprise in music. And so if you are fortunate enough to catch one of those waves or catapults, it's like all of a sudden, I mean, for me personally, I have a real deep sense of, you know, first of all, I need to express gratitude, but I also need to take this super seriously. And there's a responsibility to, you know, I guess not just rest on the laurels and just go, oh, okay, cool.
That's something that more, though, is like, how old are you?
32.
Okay, so I'm 41. So you're like one generation, the next one. I think your generation onwards has a better sense of not being ashamed to seize a moment. And like my generation was more, you had to look like you weren't trying, and you had to sort of self-sabotage in order to have credibility. Whereas now I think people realize opportunities, they don't come around every day. Like, especially in this era of viral moments, where for whatever reason, something is created that catches on. We know how quickly it catches on and how quickly it goes. And I think we're very aware of that now. Whereas in my generation, it's like we hadn't quite wrapped our heads around it. So now I think if you get an opportunity, you have no choice. You have to like carve out as big a space. You got to like get your foot in that door in a way that it can't be shoved out, and then slowly you win this space and that space. And before you know it, you have a little territory that's yours.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm curious about the perception of success and the actual feeling of movement in your own career. I guess looking to you or asking you, like, so there's a lot of my friends and stuff, or people I went to school with, will see something from my band and kind of and then they go, oh, he was on TV and he must be a millionaire and live in a mansion. And I'm like, I mean, it's not just, it's untrue financially, but it's also untrue just kind of with the amount of acclaim that I hold myself in, you know, like, and so at every step of the way, as those catapults happen, and as I say, I mean, it's a very modest enterprise over here for the Teskey Brothers, and that's no false modesty. That's just, you know, we're just starting out, and we're happy to do that. You know, I think this angle of a trajectory is far more healthy than that. And we're hoping
the way to go.
And we're hoping to make this a lifelong career. Yeah. But I've also never really had a sense of, and I don't know if it's my fear of being able to just stop and take it in and accept the kind of success. Like, what I'm asking is, do you ever get to a point where you feel sort of secure and accomplished in what you've achieved?
I mean, I've never made enough money so that I would say like, oh, I never have to work again. Like, there's a reality that like I have to keep working to support my family and everything. So in that way, I can't really rest on my laurels. But I have also believed that I've always wanted work to come from like a genuine place. Like I don't like to think of it as work in a way. I like to be following, the clues and make something real happen in my life. All of that being said, it's a real mixture. Like I look at sometimes I look at certain artists and I just know the quality isn't there. Like, not that they don't have charisma or that there's not some appealing quality about it, but it's not that good. Because, like, you've seen a lot of people come and go over my time in the music industry. And I think that's fine. There's sort of an equalizing force to it, I equally see some people who I think are absolutely brilliant, and I'm perplexed why they haven't had a better break.
Yeah.
And like you try and analyze it, and you're like, what's not connecting here? Because this person is like the whole package. All musicians love them. Like there's like people who like that, but they just can't get a fan base, So I do realize that at this point of my career, like 25 years in or whatever it is, 27, 28 years almost, there are some milestones that are simply like to be ticked off in the world of show business. I've had a song on the radio, click. I've bought a piece of property, click. I can be in a room with pretty famous people and not feel like a total imposter, click. These are things you have to be able to do. Like, it's like, yet, all of that being said, what I aspire to is to make something cosmic. I mean, it's impossible to do what I really want to do. I mean, that's the nature of being a musician or an artist of any kind, I think. We're constantly trying to express something inexpressible. So there is failure simply in trying. Like, it is impossible to succeed. I remember hearing, what's his name from XTC? Forgot the name of the guy. The singer from, anyway, he called that song Dear God. He said that's one of our best failures. Because he perceives all their songs as failures. So anyway, I'm trying to like explain that there's two things going on. One is a natural sense of confidence that does grow with time, and it grows with doing stupid things in public and failing and all of that, and bouncing back from it and going, I guess I can survive that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a confidence you get from that, but on the other hand, a humility to do with knowing the impossible task of trying to express something through song.
Yeah. It's constantly. I think, but I guess that's what keeps us going as well. Is striving to at least trying to communicate it in a different way each time. And
I know I won't go on for a long time about this, but there's a great folk story I love. It's like an Eastern European one about a guy who goes to the piano master to learn piano, and he has some lessons, and he starts doing it for a couple of years. He's getting better and better. And then one day he asks the piano master, he says, can I ask you a question? Why does it always sound better in my head than it does coming out my fingers? And the master says, what makes you think that ever changes? No matter how good you get, it's never as good as what you can imagine in your head, Yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Because there's that deep sense of satisfaction when you complete something, but then there's the immediate sort of like the immediate analyzation of what and you're just like, it's almost there, like
And it's like sex, and it's over.
And then
no matter how good it was, it's gonna end.
And then you're filled full of shame
and all cartridge. Thank you. So that's it. Yeah.
And then you're filled full of shame, and all of those problems that you had that you tried to eschew away by having the sex is still there anyway. So
yes.
I wanted to ask about ayahuasca, Welcome to the Work, for my brother especially, because I know that he's interested in such things. He's probably more interested literally in ayahuasca, but I guess I'm more interested. Just the title itself, I think probably a lot of people paid too much attention to the ayahuasca bit and not about the Welcome to the Work bit.
Yeah.
That whole chop wood, carry water thing.
Yeah.
I love that album personally.
Thank you.
But I
Thanks.
also
Yeah.
just as a concept as well. I guess being willing and vulnerable, or allowing yourself to be vulnerable to sort of go into that journey. I just wanted to ask about that album and the time around that album. I guess the exploration around that.
Well, you know, the basic principle is that I've always been honest about, made music about what I wanted to make it about. So if I had a crush on a girl, I'd write songs for her. There was a time in my life when ayahuasca came in and I fell in love. You know, it was a tool that helped me with a lot of things and understand a lot of things. And so I just made music for it. It's sort of natural in that way, you know?
Yeah. That Welcome to the Work thing, I guess, has fascinated me because, I mean, even before that album, it's, I guess that's the central theme I've picked up maybe in your music or just as a career, is it's that you're definitely willing to confront, not only undertake the work, but to confront the hard thing that,
Well, I think I sort of think hard is fun. Like doing hard things is fun.
Yeah.
So I hate them, but I also love them. So like, even when like today, like my wife was telling me something about myself, I was like, oh, I didn't want to hear it, but I also was loving it because I was like, this is how you change.
Yeah.
You know, so I've just sort of like loved that. I've always loved things that are challenging, and I've always kind of thought, jump, and then we'll figure out what to do, you know?
Yeah. As you were seeing that, it made me think of a thing that Grace, what are you doing? It made me think of, I used to love the feeling of going to bed as a little kid, knowing that my parents were still awake.
Yeah.
So just hearing that the TV was on, or that, maybe family members or my auntie or uncle or something were over, and I would go to bed and the parents would stay up, and you could hear them talking, or the TV would be on and there'd be drinks happening, and you would think that would like keep you awake, but there was just something about this kind of somnambulant security of knowing that the adults were there.
It's like a secret society.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, and to this day, I kind of, if ever I fall asleep with like a partner or something, if they fall asleep first, I always have this kind of empty. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
It's just like the little boy in me just wants someone to like, as I fall asleep.
Some people like that. Some people like to fall. Like kids often. I remember we used to take my daughter to sound checks, and she would fall asleep once the sound check started. Like loud music would make her asleep. All right, let's try this out because then I gotta head off. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm very curious how we're gonna do this.
All right. Well, first, thanks so much for being so generous with your time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I can't believe you came on. So what I was thinking is, obviously we can't play together in time, but I'm thinking maybe it could work like, so you would sing the first section. So, woke up this morning, suddenly we're all in this together. And then you stop playing.
Okay, we'll trade lines.
Yeah. And then, it might not work, but then, so.
What key are you in?
You do it with a capo on the second, don't you?
Yeah. That's how you're doing it. So there, like, it's like it's like an F sharp major, sort of.
Yeah. But you do the like the pre-chorus every time. All right.
Okay.
So
sounds good.
Only wanted to reach out and so you do that. This could completely ruin the song. And apologies to Ben's fans.
No, come on. It's gonna be great. Woke up this morning, suddenly realized we are all in this together.
I started smiling, 'cause you were smiling. We're all in this together.
I'm made of atoms, you're made of atoms, and we're all in this together.
And long division just doesn't matter. We're all in this together.
Yeah. Okay, coming in the second verse. I saw you walking in the city. We are all in this together.
The city's changing, 'cause we are changing. We're all in this together.
Every 12 seconds, someone remembers that we're all in this together.
In the kitchen of your rent-controlled apartment, we're all in this together.
Come on, baby, I don't mean to rush you. I only wanted to reach out and touch you. I've got to start to open my heart. Okay, why don't you start off this next verse?
Okay. I know you think about jumping ship before it sinks, but we are all in this together.
Ask a scientist. It's quantum physics. We are all in this together.
On the subway, we feel like strangers. We're all in this together.
And look, I love you. She loves her. You love her. She loves him. We are all in this together. You know, baby, there's never been protection in all the history of human connection. So come on, darling, it's alright to show me you don't ever need to be lonely once you start to open your heart. Why don't you take the like sad sort of thing before the ending here? Here we go. All good, all good, all
I
good.
saw you crying, started crying, 'cause we're all in this together. And religion, it's a big decision, but we're all in this together. We
are all in this together. We are all in this together. Sing along,
everybody.
Come on. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. That was awesome.
Thank you for indulging me, Ben.
No, that was brilliant. I'm glad we did it like that.
Apologies to Ben's fans, but look, that was among one of those childhood fantasies. You know, it was Axl Rose walked past.
There you go. Now you've lived it too.
I know, and playing on Instagram Live with Ben Lee. I have lived it.
Right on, man. I so appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being so generous with your
Right on.
time.
See you later.
Man. Thank you.